for this after this training. Okay. Glad you got the link, Allison.
Thank you for that.
Good one. Good morning, Lori. Good morning, Diane. Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Joanne. Good morning, Lori. If everyone wants to put their name and their organization in the chat, this will be a great attendance verification for me. Good morning, Norm. Norm, right now we're just doing introductions in the chat. If you want to throw your name and your organization.
Sure.
We do have quite a bit of information to go through today. So if you do have a question mid-presentation, please feel free to add it in the chat so that you don't forget it. But we're going to go through all of our slides first, and then I'll be able to answer any questions that you have at the end of the presentation.
And I'll answer in chat as I can.
Share my screen. Windows, do this one. So now, Renee, because I have the slideshow up, I can't see anything in Teams.
Okay. Do you want me to be accepting people into the meeting also?
Yeah, if I don't see them, please. Great, welcome to all of our organizations. I'm going to jump right in because we, like I said a little bit earlier, we do have a bit of information to get through today, and I want to be able to answer everybody's questions that we do have. Welcome to the Youth Education and Enrichment Grants Program Technical Information Session. My name is Mary Armbruster. I'm the Senior Program Coordinator, Grants Management out of the Community Services Division. If you are awarded a grant, your primary contact will be with me. I am also the staff liaison to the Education Enrichment Committee. These civilian members are a part of the selection committee who helps community service staff rate and grade proposed applications that are submitted. I did, excuse me, want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for what you are doing for the community, specifically for the youth community in the city of Gaithersburg. The work that you do is immeasurable, and the impact that you have on our young people. Thank you so much. I did also want to take this opportunity to introduce our new-ish division manager, Renee Nicolosi. Renee, did you want to say anything to our friends?
Good morning. I've been here over half a year, so yay. I come from Everymind, where I was the 2 years prior over adult and community services there. And before that, I was the director of resident and community services for the Housing Authority, serving 30,000 residents plus surrounding communities. It's great to see you all.
Thank you, Renee. So we're just going to jump right in, if I can. This is our agenda for the morning. I did want to make note that for my friends who showed up a little bit late, that these slides will be available on the city's grants webpage. The grants webpage is a great resource for anyone looking for information for notice of funding opportunities. We do currently have 2 live notice of funding opportunities, and this just happens to be one of them. If the information that we go over today is going to be a little quick, if you needed to reference this will be available on that site. And all of our slides are noted so that if you just needed to jump through and look at those important dates or look at the budget spreadsheet, you'll be able to find those in the slides noted. So this year's funding opportunity is available, like I said, on the city's grants webpage. If you were to go to gaithersburgmd.gov, you'll be able to travel through the website, or we do have a biddy link, gburg.md/grants. That'll take you right to our grants webpage, which I'm going to go over in a few slides down. But all of that information is available on our website. The notice of funding opportunity provides, those best practices and transparency in the program that we were looking for. We put our heads together and we thought of all of the questions that an organization could have, and hopefully this document will be able to answer all of those questions. But again, if you do have questions, I'm going to walk you through how to submit those in writing to the city. Excuse me. The Educational Enrichment Committee and the Community Services work hand in hand in fine tuning those areas of funding that the city is looking to focus on. And we are also the ones who make those grant determinations during the city's budget cycle. So the Educational Enrichment Committee and Community Service staff make up that selection committee that chooses which organizations are awarded which grants. And I did put a note here that the number of nonprofit grantee awardees does vary year to year. That even though, we may have awarded 15 organizations for 1 year, that may not be the case for the next year, depending on, again, that selection committee and those focus areas which we're looking to fund. Requirements for this grants funding. Is your organization a 501c3 nonprofit doing work within the city of Gaithersburg, specifically with those partner titles or 10% city schools? That means that 10% of the total student population is made up of city residents. In order to make the grants program consistent across the board, we are offering contracts for 1 year with a 1-year option. This is new this year. We have been doing 2-year contracting with our community service organizations and felt that the need to be consistent across the board was necessary. Of course, your 1-year option contracting is, are you in contract compliance? Are you doing what you say you're doing? Have you been scoring above satisfactory on your quality assurance reportings? I've been able to come out and view a site visit and given you a satisfactory or strong rating? And then, of course, that ever important fact that the mayor and city council need to approve the budget year to year. So that 2nd-year option is now new to the youth contract, or excuse me, the youth programs. Applicants must have 5 years of relevant experience and must be in good standing with the state that they are registered in. And good for you all for being here today, because applicants must attend a required technical session provided by the city. So you'll be able to mark that on your application that you were able to attend today. Again, the notice of funding opportunity came out last Friday, and it was short notice on these technical information session dates. And so some organizations were unable to attend today. So this reporting will be available on the city's website. And if you know of an organization who would fit within these grant requirements, please let them know that this reporting is available on the website for any questions that they may have. Goals for eligible funding for support. These have been the city's funding supports programs that addresses key areas of youth development and community engagement. Eligible programs should align with one or more of the following focus areas. And these could be in academic development, improving literacy and numeracy skills, expanding STEAM education and exposure, providing quality tutoring and academic support, or enhancing that college readiness programs. Now, I did want to make note that applicants may propose funding for initiatives outside of these categories for consideration. So if you don't see something under academic development that your program is geared towards, still submit your application, which will go under review. If we go into that next bullet for social emotional development, or helping youth develop confidence, resilience, and positive relationships, if your program is geared towards building self-esteem and confidence, teaching healthy coping mechanisms, enhancing conflict resolution and communication skills, or promoting empathy and social responsibility. That would be a great program for eligible funding. Physical health and wellness, encouraging those healthy lifestyles and well-being, offering nutrition education and healthy eating habits, promoting physical and exercise programs, raising mental health awareness and access to services, or supporting those substance abuse prevention efforts. That would be under that category. Economic self-sufficiency, which is a huge focus under the community services division with our financial empowerment center. Being able to prepare youth for future career and financial independence. And that could be anything from technical and vocational skills training to internship and apprenticeship opportunities, entrepreneurship skills, as well as that ever important financial literacy education. Community engagement, encouraging youth to take an active role in their communities, developing leadership skills, promoting civic engagement and volunteerism, strengthening peer-to-peer networks, creating mentorship opportunities, teaching team building skills. All of that would go under community engagement. And of course, addressing disparities or ensuring equitable access to opportunities for all youth. Your program could go around supporting youth from marginalized communities, addressing socioeconomic inequalities, combating identity-based and ability-based discrimination, or providing culturally relevant programs and services. A key takeaway from this slide should be that programs should align with at least one of these funding priorities and to focus on those measurable impact and outcomes and what is available to the community and demonstrate a clear plan for youth engagement and success. And I am going to reiterate again the flexibility with the city funding, that if an applicant proposes funding for initiatives outside of this category, it will still be eligible for review and consideration. No, that was quite a bit of information. So if you do have questions about these funding areas, please let us know in the chat, and we could come back to the slide if necessary. Today I'm going to move on to those important dates that you should be aware of. Of course, this month, February, our notice of funding opportunity went out for our youth grants as well as for the Edward Parent Resource Center. Those are available again on our city's grants webpage. We are having our technical information sessions this month. I am going to go over how you can submit applicant questions in order for the program to have full transparency, as well as for just efficiency. If 3 organizations have the same question, I'd rather just create a frequently asked questions list on our city's webpage that you could refer to. And I'll teach you in a second on how to do that through Survey 123. March, we have our applicant questions that Survey 123 form. Those will be due by March 21st. Any final questions will not be answered after March 21st at 5 p.m. And of course, that ever important proposal deadline is March 28th at 5 p.m. The selection committee, the education enrichment committee, as well as community service staff will be reviewing proposals that last week of March and through April. Those FY26 award notifications. If you wanted to participate in the budget adoption hearing, that is through a regular mayor and city council session, which will be Monday, May 12th at 7:30 p.m. You can register to attend this session. Excuse me. You can register to attend this session on the city's webpage. If you need kind of guidance on where to go for that registration, just let me know and I'll be able to point you in the right direction. June, our non-awarded organizations will receive guidance on program or proposal improvements if they did not receive a notice of proposed funding. And then July 1st will be the start of that program year. So our program year will go from July 1st, 2025 through June 30, 2026, with that renewal for 1-year option based on the approval of the city's budget and quality assurance. Now, I did want to walk everybody through the City of Gaithersburg Grant Opportunities webpage. This is going to be your resource for everything grant nonprofit related in the city. When you do go onto the city's website, gaithersburgmd.gov, you can either travel through the site, going to services, community services, and then scrolling through our community services webpage, or you can use our bidding link. Again, that's gberg.md/grants, and it'll take you right to this page. When you do go onto this webpage, you'll see 3 grant opportunities: youth education and enrichment grants, the Ed Bohr Parent Resource Center, and community service grants. Our community service grants are on an opposite schedule from our youth enrichment grants. So they are entering their second year, whereas our youth grants are entering their first year. So those opportunities will become available later on this year. If you are interested in attending the Ed Bohr Parent Resource Center technical information session, that'll be this Thursday at 11 a.m. and registration is required for that one. And then when you do scroll through the website, you'll have your application process. You'll have your link to the application, all the submitted materials and documentations that you will need to complete this proposal. When you look at this section here, the red circled section, this is all the information that you will need for submitting your proposal for a youth grant. You have your notice of funding opportunity document. I'm encouraging everyone to really take a deep dive into this document. It is very cohesive and contains everything that you will need. When you do open it up, it has a table of contents. So if you just need to look at the budget, you'll know exactly where to go within the document. We're trying to make everything across our grant program succinct and readable across the board. And so you'll see that the notice of funding opportunity mirrors very much the exact layout of the application. And it will also mirror exactly what is in your grant contract if you were to be awarded. So your notice of funding opportunity and your grant contract document will look very, very similar. And you'll see
Mary?
that, yes, Miss Renee.
I just want to add, as somebody who myself has written many, many grants, like many of you, I want to give you the heads up that there are some significant changes in this NOFO. And so I just want to make sure that you know, just because you've done it before, there are elements that are very different, and I don't want you to miss that. So that's why you're going to want to make sure you read the whole NOFO.
Really, really take a deep dive into it. But when we do move on after the notice of funding opportunity, you'll see that there is an example of the FY26 youth application. So you'll be able to see exactly prior to going into the form of what will be in the application. Any application that is not submitted through the required link will not be accepted and will not be graded. So you'll notice that there is a giant watermark on the youth application that says submit online. And that link can be found in the notice of funding opportunity as well as right here on the website and right here on the website. How to submit questions in writing. There is a detailed instruction sheet on how to do that. Grant program budget instructions are also available, as well as the budget spreadsheet that you will need to submit with your proposal. Something new this year, which I'll get to in a minute, is the requirement of submitting a logic model. This is like a detailed plan of what you and your organization intend to do for the upcoming year. And we'll go over that in just a minute. When you do open up the grant application or the notice of funding opportunity, this will be your first page. Again, I can't reiterate enough to really take a deep dive into the document. It is a 22-page document. And hopefully that will be able to answer any questions that you do have. But again, if you do have any questions, there is a section for proposed questions. And these questions, everything that is submitted to me will be posted on the city's website for transparency and clarification. Go into that separate link for the application. This is what you will be filling out. Applications are due March 28th by 5 p.m. And again, there is a example of the grant application. Submit a question in writing. Please do so by March 21st at 5 p.m. Please make sure that your questions are numerically labeled if you have more than one, and that they are relevant to this notice of funding opportunity. So something new that is required will be a logic model. The selection committee will evaluate these logic models based on 5 criteria: your program impact, your service area, your outputs, your outcomes, and your inputs. Now, because this is fairly new, we are also giving a example of your logic model. And actually, I was going to pull it. Let me pull it up. Let me stop share real quick, and I'm going to pull up the actual logic model. See.
Mary, can I ask you a question that's in the chat that I think I know the answer to, but want to make sure?
Mm-hmm.
Says the application doesn't appear to have a place to submit insurance-related documentation, but my answer is, and is this correct, that several documents are required to be attached to the application, and this is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
We will not need insurance documents like your certificate of insurance until you're awarded a grant.
Okay.
So that is separate from when you are awarded. The documentation that we do need is all listed on the city's website. And that is the documentation that we will need for review.
All right, and the second part is, will there be considered any waivers for the new improper sexual insurance coverage of 1 million? And I think probably not, because this is a legal question, but I'm not a lawyer. So you guys could submit that question online and we can ask the attorneys.
All right. The mouse wants to work. All right, here we go. So jumping into the logic model, can everyone see, or is it too small? We'll jump right in. This is the instruction sheet. You'll see here at the tabs at the bottom, you have your instruction sheet, which will walk you through the different terms, what the selection committee is looking for in terms of a logic model. You have your template down here, which is blank for you to use. And then you have your example logic model here. What I can say about a really good logic model is that it will follow the outline of what you are proposing in your application. I would recommend doing your logic model first, because this will be a great outline for you to follow through the application. When we look up here at the top and with our example applicant, we have youth workers of Gaithersburg, Inc. They're identifying a need or a problem as financial insecurity, and their program impact or the situation priorities and intended outcomes are to increase economic viability of low-income populations, teens specifically, where they will train 75 students with workforce readiness skills and secure employment for those 40 students. Now, I did want to make note that this document is not meant to have all of your narrative. That is not what we are looking for. If you can see ours, it is short, succinct, it is bulleted. It is not deep, it's not deep detailed at all. That is what we're looking for in the narrative section of your application. However, it does give a great snapshot of what the program is going to look like from start to finish. That service area that the program will be addressing is pulled directly from one of those 6 funding areas, which is economic self-sufficiency, specifically in the areas of technical and vocational skills training and internship and apprenticeship opportunities. And you'll see down here in the inputs, they're putting in what they will invest. the funding for staff salaries, partnerships with local businesses, mentors, trainers, and workshop facilitators, facilities for training sessions, and the important program management software for tracking those participation and outcome results. When we move over to the second section of our logic model, we have our outputs, which is our services or activities. And then we have our outcomes. What is our impact and goal? Why did you do this service? And when you follow the activities, you know, we have our outreach and registration events at 3 City of Gaithersburg high schools, where each school will register 25 students for the program for a total of 75 total. So in this section, you have your activities on what you are going to do. You have your participation on who you will reach. And then once we move into our outcomes or our impacts, we have that participants gain knowledge of work readiness through pre and post tests. We have that 60 students will complete a resume, 50 students will complete a mock interview, and 50 students will interview for a job, where participants will increase their understanding of workforce expectations through pre and post tests. And then we have our long-term goal that 40 students will secure that employment. Now, these short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes can go directly into your contract if you are awarded a grant. And those can be discussed during our contract development if you are to receive an award. But you'll see that this program, Youth Workers of Gaithersburg, walks through their inputs of what they will invest, the activities of what they are going to do, the participants on who they will reach, and then those short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes. I will say that we have been researching best practices on short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes. So they have to be able to be measured in some sort of way. If you say that you will, it's very, very hard to measure emotion. So please make sure that you are measuring something tangible. Did you want to add anything, Renee?
Yeah, are you going to give the little cheat sheet notes that?
Yes, that is on the front tab. Okay. That'll be on your first tab, will be your instruction sheet. A logic model, do take note, is one of the higher rated sections of the proposal. It'll be worth 20 points. And this will be able to walk you through what the selection committee is looking for in your logic model. And again, we're not looking for detailed explanations. That should be saved for your narrative section of your application, but a good snapshot and a detail of what your program is going to look like. If this is successful and well done, this would translate very easily into your application. So that's why I suggest maybe doing this first, planning this out first, and that way you'll be able to easily translate this information into your proposal application. Stop share that one. And go back to PowerPoint. This is not PowerPoint. Second. Okay, everyone can see the PowerPoint. I can't see anyone, so if someone could say yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so once we get past our logic model, we're going to go right into our budget spreadsheet, which this actually looks a little bit different than it has in years past. Budget. That's it. This one. Okay, can everybody see this one?
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, so this is our updated budget spreadsheet. This you'll see when you go down to the bottom, you'll have your instructions tab as well as 3 tabs for if your program is going to be implemented at more than one school. If you're applying for one program at 3 different schools, one application is acceptable. If you are applying for 2 different programs at 2 different schools, you will need to submit an application for each of those different programs. So that would include a logic model for both programs and a budget spreadsheet for both programs. So everything, if you could do it on one application for one program, perfectly fine. But if you're proposing for 2 different programs, that'll have to be 2 different applications in that whole process. But when we do get into our budget spreadsheet, we'll have our definitions, we'll have our grant requirements, and then compliance and documentation. Something new this year for the budget or for the program in general is we do have a minimum grant award requirement. Grants will not be awarded for less than $5,000. So if you are looking for funding for a short, small program that only costs $1,500, unfortunately, the city is not, that's not within the city's capacity to award at this time. Program service allocation, 85% of the grant award needs to be served directly for program support, meaning that only 15% of this grant may be used for administrative and indirect costs, which will be marked on your budget spreadsheet, which I'll go over in a minute. There is a funding cap on the city. If the award from the city of Gaithersburg cannot make up more than 50% of your total budget, which I could go over in a second. And then funds awarded for salaries and fringe benefits must be used to pay the salary and benefits of staff directly impacting the work of this grant, unless it's for that indirect cost for another personnel, which we'll go over in just a second. Compliance and documentation, I did add this section down here for the start of FY27, which will be the start of the second year for the youth awards. The city moving forward after this year will no longer be paying for services in advance, but will be paying for services after they are rendered. And again, we can go over this more in detail next year, but that will be starting in FY27. And this again goes back to best practices and similar to what other grant programs are doing within the county. And any questions, of course, can be sent to grants@gaithersburgnd.com. So when we go into our budget spreadsheet, this is an example sheet. Excuse me, let me go back. This is our example sheet. So at the top, we need the total of the organization's revenue from the current file 990, because again, we are checking to ensure that that percentage of the budget does not go over 50%. And this is this is exact. So say you are requesting $10,000 from the city, would make up 7% of this organization's budget. And going back to our example logic model organization, they were requesting to propose services for 75 students. The automatic population of that would pop up here. So that'd be $133. We come down here, we have our program name and our organization name. I see my friends from Seroptimist of Upper Montgomery County are here today. And the name of their program is the Dream It Be It program, which would go here. Their organization name, Seroptimist, and the school that they're proposing the service at. When you come down to your personnel expenses, we have our program coordinator who makes $55,000, and they are doing direct service with this program. And so they are requesting 10% of their salary to be funded by the city of Gaithersburg. So your amount requested from the city will go in these boxes, and then you will mark whether it is direct or indirect service specifically for this program. These boxes indicate other funds for program personnel expenses. You'll see that this box and this box automatically populate into the program total of this box. So you do not need to touch any of these. These are actually locked. You will have no access to these. But we would like to know that what is the request from the city and how this program coordinator is funded from other expenses. When we go down to our fringe benefits, what this organization is asking for is 15% of the fringe benefit to be covered by the city. And they're asking the same 5% for their example CEO to be covered at an indirect cost. Now, remember, these indirect costs, when we go down throughout the document, cannot equal more than 15% of the total ask of the grant. These
15% or 50?
15%.
Thank you.
You'll notice that these highlighted green boxes automatically populate with the information input in the other boxes. So you do not need to touch these highlighted boxes. And again, they are locked. When we go down to our operating expenses, we have some examples here. The totals, what they're proposing from the city of Gaithersburg and whether they are direct or indirect. And again, when we go down from grants from other revenue sources or in-kind donations, that will be filled in here. And then these green boxes, again, you will have no access to. But this total down here, 32,455, should really equal what's up here. Sure, we'll have questions about the budget. This is always, it can be confusing, but hopefully this is a much more streamlined document than it has been in the past. Really keep an eye out for those direct and indirect costs. And if you do have questions, remember to refer to the instruction sheet, which has those definitions right there in front. If there are excessive errors in your program budget, as well as excessive errors in your proposal application, I do want to make note that if I have to spend an excessive amount of time on your application trying to get errors fixed, going back and forth, then your application can be excused from grading and will not be given a score.
Which we don't want to do. So make best use of being able to submit your questions so we can support you.
Please, please, please. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so when we move on.
Mary, we just got a good question. Can you go back to budget? How to show volunteer hours with no paid staff? That is a good question. Could they just put it under personnel expenses and type volunteer no cost and put a 0 in budget? And we can see what staffing is.
That's a great question.
I'll put that in the chat so it's in the recording.
Your hours.
Well, obviously it's in the recording.
How to calculate. That's a great question. Okay. So we got like 2 more slides and then we'll be able to answer more questions. So this is a great slide. It's an important one. This is just a good overview of how to become a successful grantee. Have you thoroughly reviewed that notice of funding opportunity document? Again, I can't reiterate the importance of this document and being able to really understand what the city is asking for and those relevant qualifications and requirements that need to be submitted with your application. Your budget spreadsheet, follow those tab instructions. If you're unsure, please, I am here to help. Form site application. The form site application is where you will be submitting all of that supplemental documentation that is listed on the grants webpage. You'll have your logic model, and something new as well is we will be needing the submittance of staff resumes, as well as 3 references from different organizations or schools or other nonprofit partners who can vouch for the success of your program. Those applicant questions are due to survey 123 again by March 21st. And those questions will be posted online in a frequently asked questions tab. Your logic model, does it correlate with what you have put in your application? And again, this is a great program tool. It is meant to be a guide and a detailed plan and path of how your program is going to be successful. And again, the budget and the logic model, both of these documents are worth 20 points each. So they're rated very, very high in terms of the points that your organization can be awarded. The points layout of what will be rated is in the form site application, as well as a thorough review of what will be rated in the notice of funding opportunity. If you are successful in all of these within your proposal, I can't see why not you wouldn't be awarded a grant award. And hopefully these instructions will give you a successful proposal. Now, I do want to say, in terms of an organization thinking of applying for a City of Gaithersburg grant award, do take note that if you are awarded, there are grant requirements once you are awarded. Can your organization meet those quarterly reporting deadlines? We do have four reports that need to be submitted throughout the year. These will include a narrative section as well as the submittance of client addresses. If you are unsure of the school that you are working at, if those students are city residents, please let me know. There's a great tool on the city's webpage which allows you to look up addresses to ensure that they are within the corporate limits of the City of Gaithersburg. The reason that the city is so particular about funding for city students is because this grant money is pulled directly from resident taxpayer dollars. So it has to be spent on those taxpayer families. Can you comply with quarterly assurance requirements and quality improvement plans when needed? The city has updated our quality assurance system where organizations, when they submit their quarterly reports, as well as when I go out to visit at a site visit, a scoring system. If your organization is rated they're given a rating from 1 to 4, 4 being strong, 3 being satisfactory, 2 being unsatisfactory, and 1 being poor. If your organization were to receive a rating below that 3 satisfactory threshold, 2 things can go into play. 1, we could meet and go over the deficiency in your reporting or in your site visit. And it's an easy fix that you will be able to get done quickly, or I'd be able to give a new rating. However, if you were to receive that score of 1 or poor, a quality improvement plan will be kicked into play. And this will be a second form that you would need to fill out, giving a detailed understanding over the next 6 weeks of how you are going to become back into contract compliance. If at the end of those 6 weeks you are not able to get above that rating of 1, then 2 things can go into play. We could do a contract modification where we could actually lower those outputs and outcome requirements, as well as the award amount your organization was supposed to receive, or we can completely terminate the contract. So those are new requirements for the city this year. And again, of course, like just being respectful of those timely responses to city communication. Are you answering my emails? Am I hearing from you? Or are you AWOL? Are you able to comply with the client confidentiality that is new this year? When we submit applications, or excuse me, when we submit those addresses, are they in a format that is secure? Then of course, are you able to participate in that annual city evaluation site visit. So it is a bit of work to apply for one of these grants, but it is going to be a little bit of work once you are awarded that grant. And so just make sure that your organization has the capacity to be able to comply with those grant award requirements.
Mary,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to call out that on the quality assurance, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 is 2 is unsatisfactory, and 1 is what?
4.
Yeah, and so you have to get back up to satisfactory. So not just out of a 1, you also have to get out of the 2. Does that make sense? You have to be performing as a 3 or a 4, satisfactory or strong.
All right. When we move on to this section, this is just next steps. Our city's NOFO is available on the webpage. Consider which funding support area best fits your program. Go back through these slides and check out those 6 areas of funding that the city is looking to support. Those different bullets that I had laid out are available in the NOFO document that it's laid out in great detail. Ensure your organization has access to the application. I know a few organizations had difficulty getting into the registration for this as well as the other technical information sessions. So please let me know if you're having technical difficulties. Submit those questions via survey 123. I'll be happy to post those on the city's website. That deadline of March 28th at 5 p.m. Please be aware that no applications will be able to be submitted after that 5 p.m. hard deadline. Proposal submissions are reviewed in April, and discussions with applicants are going to take place in April and May if necessary. And those grant award announcements, I know I put May on a previous slide, but it'll be the end of May, beginning of June of 2025 for those grant awards. Which again, I'm going to refer people to the grants webpage and that information support, gbird.md/grants. That'll have all of your supplemental documentation that we need, as well as the example grant application. Once you do get into that link for the grant application, it's hard to see moving forward because there are required points throughout the document. So be able to check out that example application. And if you have any questions prior, you can ask them now, or you could submit those in writing.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the mandatory background checks, there are multiple levels of a background check. What is the minimum required? Because they're a costly proposition, I might add. So what is required? According to this NOFO, it said we needed to have a mandatory background check. Is that for all staff that'll be working on the program?
To be for direct service staff, right, Mary?
Yeah, direct service staff. If you're in the school, which I'm pretty sure MCPS requires you to have a background check prior to even entering, correct?
Well, but it's not within the last 6 months. I mean, they give you 3 years. I mean, the MCPS does have an online site where you have to take their training, and it's good for a period of time. And background checks, if you're, depending on how frequently you're going into the school, et cetera, it does vary. So my question is, and I'm assuming we need, it also says we need resumes for the direct staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I would assume that that's who you would need the background checks. But if you have people coming to a program, not, infrequently, in other words, you have your core staff, but you may have some other staff coming to help out. are these included and are resumes needed for them as well?
No, Joanne, like particularly for your program, because there are so many volunteers, if it was just yours and who else does your direct program overview? Is it Danielle?
Yeah, I mean, but we have quite a number of mentors depending on what school we're at and how many students we have.
I
And
would say
MCPS doesn't require background checks on anyone who comes in and works with kids?
Not if
It's
you are
like I said, they have it. No,
not
not
staff in the school.
yeah. So I'm just, yeah, like I said, but if you have to get the background check yourself, the organization, okay, you have to determine who you're going to go to and what kind of check you want them to have. The minimum check is they look across, have they ever been reported for any misconduct? But it doesn't go into a credit check or anything else.
Oh, right,
Like,
we don't want that, right?
you don't
So
want
let-
that, right? Okay, so
Yeah,
you
let
want
us check
kind of
with
the
the-
minimum one.
Yeah, let us check with the attorney so that we can drill down and get specific clarification on that, and we may update the NOFO with that information, and we'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, and then finally, my last question, and this is going to be an issue for us, I can tell you right now, and that is this new insurance requirement that I alluded to, Renee, originally, and whether or not there are waivers or whatever, for $1 million coverage in addition to your liability insurance. I have a call in to the Seroptimus insurance people, but for a club to have to get that independently, for an example, I have no idea how much that would cost. And that was never a requirement up until this year.
We'll ask the attorney about that also.
Okay.
great.
Thank you for that information, Lori. That'll be a good reference for us to look up MCPS and their requirements.
Yeah.
All right. If there's any further questions, volunteer background screening.
No, I'm just letting you know. That's how you find it on the website. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So if that is it, thank you so much for attending today. This recording will be available on the website. And again, if you have any questions after this, if you're looking through the NOFO, if you're looking through the application, you're just unsure of something, please fill out that form, and I'll be checking that daily. So please give me at least a 24-hour turnover timeline on
Mary,
those.
for everyone's ease, could you maybe copy the link and email it to everyone who's attended today, and then they have some less steps to take?
Mhm. All right, so can I just share this really fast? Share with everybody. When I go on the city's webpage, I'm here at my grants opportunities, and I'm going to scroll down, how to submit questions as an applicant. You go here, and gives you a detailed instructions on how to do it, but I'll just copy this link here, and I'll post it in the chat.
Thank you, Mary.
No problem. Thank you so much, friends. Again, can't thank you enough for all the work that you do with the youth in our community, the impact that you're having on their lives. And we're just so grateful and thankful to the city of Gaithersburg to be able to provide these grant monies to support all of your wonderful programs. So thank you so much for being here today. And again, if you know of any organizations who are interested in youth grants, please send them my way. We have another technical information session for this Friday scheduled for this grant program. Oh, Diane, I see your hand is up. Yes, dear. Oh no, I can't hear you. I saw you just unmuted yourself too. So maybe just double check your settings. I'm going to type it in the chat. All right. And again, if you have questions about the budget spread, can you take a moment to explain the form site? So if you were to, let me, absolutely, let me share this. Here we're back on our webpage, and we can either here apply to youth education. This takes you straight to the application. Form site is just meant, as the software that we use to take these applications. And again, I can't go through it because these are required forms. But if we go back to the website, you can see the youth application here. And we can walk through. This is just the form site application. We have our contact information, schools. Again, there are going to be organizations who are providing the same program at multiple schools. If you are doing 2 different programs at 2 different schools, please submit applications for each of those programs. We have your program overview. And then we jump right into the outline of the notice of funding opportunity, which starts with your narrative statement. Now you'll see once we go through some of these that some have points and some don't. These still need to be completed. Again, if I have to go through your application and there are pieces missing or there are excessive errors, I'm going to give you 72 hours as a good turnover to get that information that I need. If it's submitted with more errors or if you're unable to complete at that 72-hour deadline, fortunately, we're going to have to take your application out of contention. But again, I am here as support and whatever help that you need to get the most successful application in, please let me know. My goal is not to be strenuous on organizations, but to ensure that city funding is going towards those programs that have the biggest impact, and which programs are meeting the goals of what the city is looking to fund. We have that staff experience where you will include your resumes, any referrals. We're looking for 3 referrals. Your pricing and budget, your budget spreadsheet can be clicked on here. Those required forms, and that statement of understanding from the school. This understanding also needs to include, which is in the notice of funding opportunity, a section around addresses. Some schools still give organizations a really hard time about collecting student addresses, and I know this is a concern for a lot of schools and organizations. However, the addresses are collected specifically for the purpose of making sure that these city funds are being used on those city taxpayer families, as well as being able to submit to our GIS or our mapping division on where those services are being provided. And this is just a great way to show where the need is in the city and where the impact can be for those city dollars.
And just for clarification, we can only reimburse for work received by City of Gaithersburg residents. Right?
We've had a few organizations, even now, who said that they were unaware that these monies had to be spent on city residents, even though we are saying monies have to be spent at a specific school. That school is not made up of 100% of City of Gaithersburg residents. None of our schools are. Some of them come close, but unfortunately, that is the reason why we have that address lookup system. It's the most cohesive, succinct way we could think of collecting that information. So please be aware that if you are looking to receive an award from the City of Gaithersburg, it has to be spent on City of Gaithersburg residents. Unfortunately, that is the way we have to do it because of taxpayer monies. And please make sure that it's being spent on city residents.
Yeah. Hey, Mary, that begs another question on the street addresses with the initials. So it now says that when we send this to you, we have to have you have to have a passcode to be able to open up what we've sent you. That's how I read what it said in there. Right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And second of all, when right now the school gives us the kids' addresses and what have you, but they give it to us and it's not, how shall I put it? They basically share the document that includes that information. But you want us to be able to get consent from the individuals, i.e. the student parents, for their addresses to be able to be used when we're collecting this information. That's the way I read this. It's not sufficient that the school is giving us permission to collect this information.
Correct. You, as an organization, need to let your clients know that you are sharing their information. So
And the client would be who here? The school or the individual student?
The individual student. Yes. If
Okay.
you are, that's a great question, actually, because how do you let a fifth grader know or a second grader know that you're sharing their information?
Well, almost all of the programs require parental consent to be part of the program. And like for us, I'm just going to add that in there as part of, it's part of, if your child's part of the program, we're going to be sending this information to the City of Gaithersburg, and that
would 100% meet that requirement.
correct. Hopefully that will not discourage parents from allowing their children to take our program. Seriously.
I understand. This was something that we had a lengthy conversation with legal about the address submissions, and they let us know that this has to be a requirement. Residents have to be aware that their information is being shared, and so this is going forward how our grants program, this new requirement will be implemented. But I understand your concern, Joanne. I do.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question, sorry, Diane. I see save and return, but I was wondering how I know if I have an account. This is a new site for you. Is it? Oh, never mind. The last one I figured it out. Okay. Lori, so we just sent a letter home. If they are worried about immigration, we won't have any students. That would be very difficult. We can send home a letter, but I think it will scare off a lot of people. If they are at school and receiving instruction, I don't get why we have to do this. Look, everyone.
I agree.
Given our current circumstances, I see your point. So Mary, why don't we ask the attorney what kind of leverage we have here?
Okay. See you typing, Diane. Okay. We have not provided names in the past, are we now, or is this just addresses? So you are correct. No names need to be submitted. However, if you can please submit either client initials or a client ID number to correlate with that address, that is a new requirement. And that will be, again, how I send everyone the Excel spreadsheet for address submittance. That will be a new column within that spreadsheet.
We always did that.
You always did that, Joanne.
No, you had the column
However,
there. You
some
had the
organ,
column there.
we had the column, but it was a
Optional.
option. It was an
Oh.
optional column. Now it is a required.
I see. Okay.
Diane, we don't have to provide names, and if we serve a whole grade or a whole school. It's a great question, Diane, and I will get back to you. Whole grade.
Well, no, that one is the same, right, Mary? I mean, whether you serve a whole grade or not, we will only reimburse for children who are residents of the city. Is that what you're asking?
Correct, but in the address submittance spreadsheet, though, there is now a column for client ID or client oh my gosh, initials. So how would an organization do that if they're serving a whole school or a whole grade level or a whole, like a big group during like an assembly, say they're doing school assemblies? Do we have to send letters to everyone?
But if you're doing school assemblies, how do we know how to bill, how to reimburse if we're not getting addresses and initials? Am I missing something?
She's writing in the chat. She can get the
right. That's what we're going to
addresses.
ask the lawyer about. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Diane. All right, I hope this answered everyone's questions. I know it's a bit of a lot of information, a little bit different this year. But whatever we can do to help, again, we want what's best for city youth and how to get these programs into our schools. So however we can assist, please let us know. And thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I can't hear you. Can't hear you, Diane. I'm sorry.